Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Take Note and Move Forward podcast show. I am Notes from Wanda, your host, your life coach and encouragement speaker. So recently I changed the title on all three of my social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I changed it to writer, podcaster, and silence breaker. The reason why I changed it was because I feel like the title is fit for the audience that I cater to. It is more appropriate for the women that I represent day in and day out. The women that I talk to on the weekends and throughout the week about the pain and the suffering that they're experiencing due to rape, domestic violence, or being molested as a child. So the title, writer, podcaster, and silence breaker, is on all three of my social media platforms and also now the podcast show. So it doesn't change my purpose of what I have set out to accomplish and what I am doing with the encouragement program that I created almost 3 years ago now. It doesn't change that. It just means that I have found the title that's more appropriate for me and the women that are dealing with certain issues that some people have failed to understand, especially the people who feel as if sometimes it's easier if you just forget about something and then that means that you can move on with your life. In actuality, when you ignore things and pretend like it's so easy just to forget about, you're actually just burying it and you're pushing the feelings down. And that's not a good way to cope with feelings when the feelings are about pain and suffering from domestic violence, rape, or being molested as a child. It just doesn't work out. I tried that before, and what it did to me was it pushed me to having a drink on the weekends and hanging out more often than what I should. It pushed me to drive while I was drinking, and I made a lot of terrible decisions because I was trying to push my feelings down and ignore what happened to me when I was younger. And when I got into my early 20s, I was trying to ignore it all. And I thought that was the way to go, and I thought that was the way to push past the pain and just to keep pushing. Until one day I woke up in a hospital bed after a terrible car accident. My Honda Civic hit a wall and the whole front end was practically smashed in. And to be honest with you, to this day, I don't know how I made it and how I'm still here. But according to the police officer that spoke to me while I was laying in that hospital bed, I should have been dead. I took that moment to think about everything that I have done and to think about how I was coping with all the pain that I was enduring due to the fact that I was raped and due to the fact that someone tried to rape me when I was 13 and sexually molested me when I was a child. I took all that and I thought about it and realized that what I was doing wasn't working. It wasn't working at all. What I was doing was destroying myself. What I was doing was going to eventually have my child taken away from me. The child that I claim I love so much, but I was doing all kind of terrible things to myself. So how can I love a child so much and at the same time do all these horrible things to myself just because I'm trying to ignore my feelings about the painful incidents that happened to me when I was younger and what happened to me in my early 20s? That was my breaking point. Laying in that hospital bed after that car accident, I realized that this is not the way to go. I needed to start dealing with these feelings. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. The methods that we choose to cope with our problems So they're not appropriate. Sometimes we feel like they're appropriate because we forget about it, and we're able to get up the next morning and go to work because we're coping in a certain way instead of dealing with the actual problem, dealing with the actual issue, dealing with the actual pain that we're feeling. We're just coping, overeating, drinking, or using drugs. Neither one of them will help you get past the pain and heal from that pain that you experienced when you were younger, or a year ago, or if it was in your early 20s, or whenever it was. These things that you're doing to yourself, it's not helping, and it's not gonna heal or close up any of those wounds. So today I just want to let you guys know that if you haven't found someone to talk to about the pain and the suffering that you're experiencing due to the fact that you have been abused or raped or, child molested as a child, I'm sorry. If you need someone to talk to, find someone to talk to that you can trust and that you can pour out your feelings, whether if it's a priest, pastor or bishop, or, a local church where you can trust someone to talk to. If that's not the case, then maybe if you don't trust the pastors in the church and you feel like they can't relate to you, because honestly, sometimes I feel like they can't, because sometimes I feel as if you haven't been through it, you can give me all the information in the world and all the information out of the Bible, but if you can't relate to actually what I've been through, I don't feel as if you can really help me, because how do you know what I'm experiencing unless you've been there? So what gives you the skills and the tools to help me get through what I've been through? What helps you? What's going to qualify you to help me get through this pain? So if that's the case, if you're not able to trust a pastor or, someone at the church, then maybe a therapist, because most therapists, psychologists, and they're qualified to listen and to diagnose us from what we're, dealing with. But at the same time, some of those people are not able to relate what you've been through either. So that may not help you either. It may help some of us depending on how deep your pain goes. Talking to a therapist and a psychologist. I don't discourage anyone from trying to talk to a therapist or a psychologist. I actually encourage it. But for some of us where the pain goes way deeper than what is beyond the surface, it goes deep down into your soul. Sometimes it will take actually a person that's been there where you've been. It may not be the exact same experience, but they have been there exactly. At some point in time, they've been raped or beaten by someone, and they had to learn how to get over that pain and that suffering so they can start taking the steps towards healing. And the bottom line is that until you learn to forgive, until you get to that point where you can actually walk up to that person and forgive them if they're still living, because God knows, some things happen to people, after years have passed by, some of them die, and sometimes you can't walk up to them and forgive them. But till you're able to forgive that person and move forward with your life, that pain will sit there like heartburn, burning on your chest. And it may not come up, that pain, you may not feel it every day or every morning, but sometimes it's just something that triggers you to go back to that moment and start experiencing that pain. And this is not something that's healthy, to keep feeling this way and suffering this way as if this is the only way to live. So if you can find someone that you can trust and talk to, maybe a person that has been through a similar experience, And as always, I try to encourage you guys to text my phone line every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can text me at any between those times. Text me at the minimum of 2 questions about forgiveness and healing, or if you want to share your experience with me and you want me to listen to you, you can also call into my encouragement line, and that's between 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So one line is for people who wish to remain anonymous and they just want to text maybe 1 or 2 questions about forgiveness and healing. That's the line that's open between 9:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. When I open up the other actual encouragement line, when you actually can get on the phone with me and talk with me about your experience and what you've been through, and you're trying to find ways to start healing and forgiving from your past, you can call that line between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And always, if you need more information, you're more than welcome to visit my website at notesfromwanda.com. You can find all the information there about the services that I offer and what I can do to possibly help you start your process to healing. But you have to be open to it and you have to be ready for it. It's not something that you just jump into, feeling like something is just going to magically happen. It does take work and it does take patience to get through the pain and the suffering that you've been enduring over the years. It takes time and it takes patience, and you have to be willing to do the work to get through these things and to start learning how to forgive the person that did you wrong or that actually, abused you. I know it's hard and it's difficult, and some people may not agree that you should forgive the person that attacked you or abused you. But believe it or not, that's the best way to let go of that pain. That's the best way to gain back your power and to keep that pain from having so much control over you. And like I said, I walked up to the man who sexually abused me at the age of 13. I gave him a hug and I forgave him. I took my power back. And for more details about that story, you can listen to the previous episode of this podcast. And it explains exactly how I felt and how I walked up to him and gave him a hug and gained my power back. This is difficult for some of us. But as I explained in a lot of my blog posts, this is how you move forward with your career, with making progress on your job, with allowing yourself to be in a relationship. Because honestly, if you're a person that is still dealing with a lot of pain and suffering due to the fact that you were raped or abused, you need to find a way to get through that pain and that suffering and forgive before you step into a relationship or step into a new career. When you're holding all this stuff in and day in and day out, you're just coping with it. Like I was talking about earlier, like some of us overeat, some of us start drinking, and some of us even resort to using drugs. This is not a way to move forward in your career, and definitely not in a relationship, because now you're dragging somebody else into your mess. You're dragging them into this dark hole. And it may not seem like it at first, because everything is always bright and shiny at the beginning of a relationship. Everything is always new and exciting at the beginning of a relationship. But when you get into that part where you have to start making decisions together, whether you're going to move in together, whether you want to have kids together, and whether you want to get married, you might want to take a step back and maybe pull yourself away from that person, especially if you know that you're still angry and that you're still carrying around this big heartache of the things that you've been through in your past. You'll be actually doing yourself a favor and that person a favor if you step away before you get involved and get into the relationship so deep. You'll be doing yourself a favor and that person a favor. And I know we all need someone, and we all, want to have some type of companionship with another human being. And that's fine. That's beautiful. And I know there's some people who are out there who honestly feel like being single is just as good as being in a relationship. And that's good for you. But I'm talking to those of us who are thinking about getting involved in a relationship or starting a new career or starting a new business. You might want to dig deeper and start seeking some type of help to get yourself through that pain and that suffering, that heartache that you feel every now and then when you get up in the morning. You think about what happened to you when you were younger, or when some type of incident flashes before your eyes and you have a flashback and it reminds you of that terrible night, that terrible morning when you were raped, or either you were beaten, or either, somebody as a child took advantage of you as a child. So for those of us who are thinking about getting involved into new things, please think about it first. So I want to thank you guys who have been following me since the beginning of this journey. Like I said, it's been close to 3 years now since I started my encouragement program, which is a combination of a phone line and also a text line. I'm helping women every day move forward from the pain and the suffering that they endured from their past, or either, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I want to thank you guys for following me and liking my post and, sharing my information with the world. And I want to remind you guys that my book, They Said That I Wouldn't Make It, But Here I Am, is still available online at Amazon.com. The name of the book is called They Said That I Wouldn't Make It, But Here I Am. You can order the electronic version to download onto your tablet or your laptop, or you can get the paperback version delivered right to your front door by ordering through Amazon. It's also available on BarnesandNoble.com. You can get the paperback version from there. It's a powerful book about forgiveness and healing. It's my story, my testimony about how I had to take responsibility for the things that I was going through and stop blaming others. I had to stop throwing myself that pity party as if somebody was supposed to just come rescue me from out of nowhere. That's not going to happen. So I hope everyone that's listening to this show has learned at some point in time that there's no Superman flying out of the sky that's going to come down and magically heal you. The only man I know that can do such things is God. But you have to be willing to open yourself up to him too, in order to heal those wounds and to get past all that pain and suffering. Even with God, you have to open up and confess out of your mouth and mean the words that you say, so that you can start healing and that you can actually forgive the person that caused all the pain, or people that caused all the pain and the suffering that you went through. So again, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. If you're not following me on all of my social media platforms, You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Notes from Wanda. And my Facebook page is facebook.com/take note and move forward. You guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.